The elevator stopped so suddenly that my coffee flew out of the cup and splashed across the polished floor. The lights flickered once, twice, before settling into a dim emergency glow. My heartbeat pounded against my chest as I reached for the emergency button, but before panic could completely take over, I heard a calm, gentle laugh beside me. When I turned around, the elegant older woman standing a few feet away simply smiled and softly said that it looked like it was just the two of us for a while. At that moment, I had no idea that those simple words would completely change the direction of my life forever. Before we continue, if you believe kindness can appear in the most unexpected places and that everyone deserves a second chance, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe to Midnight Love Stories. Your support helps these emotional stories reach people who need them most. My name is Rowan Hayes. I was 26 years old, working as a junior architect in downtown Seattle. From the outside, my life looked organized. I had a decent job, a small apartment, and enough money to survive. But appearances often hide painful truths. My father had passed away 2 years earlier after a long illness that drained every dollar my family had saved. My mother worked long shifts at a local bakery, pretending everything was fine while quietly carrying the weight of our broken family. I had promised myself I would become successful enough to give her the peaceful life she deserved, but every month my bills reminded me how far away that dream still was. That Tuesday afternoon had already gone terribly wrong. My presentation to one of the city's biggest construction firms had failed after my laptop crashed moments before I was supposed to speak. My supervisor barely looked at me afterward. The disappointment in his eyes hurt more than any angry words ever could. Feeling defeated, I entered the elevator hoping only to reach the parking garage and disappear for the rest of the day. She stepped inside just before the doors closed. She looked to be around 48, carrying herself with quiet confidence rather than expensive arrogance. Her silver blonde hair was tied into a loose bun, and although she wore elegant clothing, nothing about her felt flashy. She carried a woven shoulder bag instead of a designer purse, and her eyes held the kind of warmth that instantly made strangers feel comfortable. She smiled politely when our eyes met, then stood silently beside me as the elevator began descending. Neither of us expected the loud metallic sound that echoed through the shaft moments later. The elevator jerked violently before stopping between floors. Everything became silent. For several seconds neither of us spoke. I repeatedly pressed the emergency button while checking my phone, only to discover there was no signal. My breathing became faster as uncomfortable memories returned. Years earlier, my father had once become trapped inside an elevator during a hospital visit, and hearing his frightened voice afterward had left a permanent mark on me. The woman noticed my shaking hands. Without asking personal questions, she simply suggested that sometimes panic grows faster than problems themselves. She encouraged me to sit on the floor because standing while anxious only made exhaustion arrive sooner. Something about her calm voice slowly settled the storm inside my mind. We sat against opposite walls, separated by only a few feet yet carrying completely different lives. Time passed strangely inside that small metal box. After nearly 20 minutes, conversation began naturally. She shared that her name was Meredith Calloway. She explained she owned a publishing company but admitted that business titles rarely described real people. Outside work, she volunteered every weekend reading books to children recovering in hospitals. She believed stories could heal hearts in ways medicine sometimes could not. I found myself smiling for the first time all day. She asked about my life. Normally I avoided talking about my struggles because I hated sounding like someone searching for sympathy. But trapped inside that elevator, surrounded by silence, honesty somehow became easier than pretending everything was fine. I told her about my father. I spoke about watching hospital machines become the soundtrack of our lives. I admitted how guilty I felt whenever my mother smiled because I knew she was hiding her own pain to protect me. I confessed that every failure at work felt like I was failing my entire family. She listened without interrupting. She never rushed to offer advice. She never compared my pain to someone else's. She simply listened. That simple kindness felt almost unfamiliar. After I finished speaking, she quietly admitted that she understood grief better than most people imagined. 5 years earlier, she had lost her husband to a sudden heart attack while they were planning their retirement together. Their only daughter had moved overseas shortly afterward, chasing career opportunities that rarely left time for visits. Her beautiful house had gradually become quieter until silence echoed through every room. People assumed wealthy people lived perfect lives. She gently explained that loneliness never checks someone's bank account before entering their heart. Her words stayed with me. The elevator remained motionless. Hours seemed to pass. Emergency crews occasionally communicated through the speaker, assuring us technicians were working to restore power. Knowing help was coming should have made everything easier, yet somehow neither of us seemed eager for our conversation to end. Meredith asked what my biggest dream really was. Not the dream I told employers. Not the dream I told friends. The real one. I admitted that someday I wanted to design affordable housing for struggling families. Growing up, I had watched neighbors lose homes simply because life became too expensive. I wanted architecture to mean more than beautiful buildings. I wanted it to give people dignity. She looked genuinely impressed. She said dreams connected to helping others rarely stayed impossible forever. Before I could respond, the emergency lights flickered again. Darkness briefly surrounded us before the backup lights returned. Instinctively, I laughed. It surprised both of us. Only an hour earlier I thought this elevator had become the worst part of my day. Now it somehow felt like the safest conversation I'd had in years. Meredith smiled and admitted that sometimes life trapped people physically only so their hearts could finally become free. The sentence sounded strange at first. But the longer I thought about it, the more it made sense. For years I had imprisoned myself inside fear. Fear of failing. Fear of disappointing my mother. Fear of never becoming enough. Maybe those invisible walls had always been stronger than the elevator surrounding us. Nearly 3 hours after becoming trapped, loud mechanical sounds echoed above us. The elevator slowly descended. The doors finally opened. Bright afternoon sunlight poured inside. Firefighters welcomed us out with reassuring smiles. People applauded lightly as we stepped into the lobby. Reporters had gathered outside because several elevators throughout the building had experienced electrical failures. While everyone hurried away, Meredith turned toward me. She thanked me. I looked confused. She explained that conversations like ours reminded her that genuine people still existed in a world increasingly distracted by phones and deadlines. She handed me a simple business card. No promises. No dramatic speeches. Just a card. She wished me luck and disappeared into the busy afternoon crowd. I slipped the card into my wallet without expecting anything more. Life continued. Or at least I thought it would. 3 weeks later my company announced budget cuts. Half our department lost their jobs. Mine was one of them. Walking home carrying a cardboard box filled with office supplies felt like carrying every disappointment I'd ever experienced. That evening, while cleaning my apartment, Meredith's business card slipped onto the floor. For several minutes I stared at it. Finally, I gathered enough courage to send her a short email. I wasn't asking for money. I wasn't asking for pity. I simply thanked her for listening that afternoon because our conversation had helped me more than she probably realized. I expected nothing. The next morning my phone rang. It was Meredith. She invited me for coffee. During that meeting she surprised me once again. She explained that after hearing about my dream inside the elevator, she had spoken with several nonprofit organizations looking for architects willing to design affordable community housing. One organization desperately needed someone exactly like me. The salary wasn't extraordinary. But the mission was. She smiled and reminded me that purpose often mattered more than prestige. I accepted. Months turned into a year. Together with an incredible team, we designed safe housing for families rebuilding their lives after hardship. Every completed building reminded me why I had chosen architecture in the first place. My mother cried the first time she visited one of our completed neighborhoods. Not because the buildings were beautiful. Because she saw children laughing safely outside homes their parents could finally afford. Meredith remained an important part of my life. She became the mentor I never expected and the friend I never knew I needed. Every birthday she mailed me a handwritten letter instead of expensive gifts. Each letter contained one simple reminder. Kindness always returns. Sometimes slowly. Sometimes unexpectedly. But always when it matters most. Years later, standing at the opening ceremony of our largest affordable housing project, I looked across the crowd until I found Meredith smiling proudly near the back. Our eyes met. Neither of us needed words. We both remembered the tiny elevator where two strangers had unknowingly stepped into each other's lives. Looking back now, I realize the elevator never trapped me. It rescued me. It forced me to stop running long enough to meet someone who reminded me that hope often arrives disguised as inconvenience. The worst afternoon of my life quietly became the beginning of my best one. And every time an elevator door closes behind me now, I no longer remember fear. I remember compassion. I remember second chances. I remember that one unexpected smile capable of changing an entire future. If this story touched your heart in any way, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, leave a comment, and subscribe to Midnight Love Stories. Your support allows us to keep sharing stories that remind us how powerful simple acts of kindness can be. Speech balloon special request: before you leave, comment, "Kindness changes lives," if you believe one unexpected moment can completely transform someone's future. Sometimes the greatest blessings don't arrive through open doors. Sometimes they begin when every exit seems closed, and a stranger chooses kindness instead of silence. That one moment may not just change your day, it may change your entire life forever.